How'd you like to listen to .NET Rocks with no ads? Easy. Become a patron. For just $5 a month, you get access to a private RSS feed where all the shows have no ads. $20 a month will get you that and a special .NET Rocks patron mug. Sign up now at patreon.netrocks.com.
Hey, Carl and Richard here. As you may have heard, NDC is back offering their incredible in-person conferences around the world, and we'd like to tell you about them.
NDC Oslo will be May 21st through the 25th. Go to ndcoslo.com to register.
NDC Copenhagen is happening August 27th through the 31st. Go to ndccopenhagen.com for more information.
NDC Porto is happening October 16th through the 20th. The early bird discount for NDC Porto ends July 21st. Go to ndcporto.com to register.
And check out the full lineup of conferences at ndcconferences.com. Hey, welcome back to .NET Rocks. This is Carl Franklin.
And this is Richard Campbell.
And, wow, this is going to be a good talk, huh? DoomSharp.
It's going to be some fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Couple of Belgians on Friday night. You know, they got beers, I'm sure.
They got beers. What could go wrong?
It could go wrong, yeah. How you doing, buddy?
I am well. You know, it was a real flurry of travel for a while there, but finally I am in a place. So, home for a few weeks before MVP Summit.
Right. Yeah. And I will not be going to the MVP Summit, but I wish you the best. Have a good time.
Yeah. It's only a drive for me, right? Like,
right.
There's almost no excuse not to go, and all you got to do is drive down. So what's up with you?
Well, here's an interesting thing. I got an email from Freakonomics Radio.
Do you know cool.
Yeah, Freakonomics. Great podcast and great books. And they basically want to interview somebody who's kind of local to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to know if my studio is available for them to, for me to host a guest. And They use Riverside, and they're like, do you do podcasts?
Since before the word podcast existed, yes.
So I'm really chuffed. They're going to they're going to bring somebody in later in the week. And they're going to record from my space.
Nice. So You're just going to do production work for them to host the guests?
All I'm doing is hosting and making sure that we get a local recording. And they're using Riverside, so it's, So that I'm going to do a local WAV file recording with Audition just to be safe and
sure,
leave them alone for an hour.
Nice.
And hopefully you get credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so that's
cool.
what's exciting to me. Hey, let's roll the crazy music for Better Know Framework. So I actually created a class out of necessity, and it was so useful that I created a class library, made a NuGet package out of it. It's called AVN Observable. And so this is, I basically use Observable Collection of T as the base class. Okay. So observable collection of T is a list or a collection that's generic that essentially allows you to handle events whenever something in the list changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I also included a selected item T property. So whatever the T is that the type is that you pass in, the selected item property will be of that type as well. And it handles all the stuff that you need for binding. So there's weirdness when you're binding with collections and you have the sort of select an item and edit it. And what happens after you edit it? The list has to update, the UI has to update, right? So basically that's what it does. And I wrote a Blazor demo, a MAUI demo, a WPF demo, and a Windows Forms demo. And It's all there in the GitHub repo. So it's github.com/carlfranklin/AVN Observable.
Nice. That's cool, man.
It is cool. And I love that is a possible solution, right? It's like, hey, I can work around this in my app, or I can just make a new library.
Yeah. Abstract that problem away so that it's consistent across the stacks.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So who's talking to us, my friend?
Grabbed a comment off of show 1833, the one we did at Sweat Hug.
Yeah.
The MAUI panel discussion when we talked to David and Maddie and had a lot of good conversation. That was really a fun show. And that's actually where the show we're about to do came from. I think we were all talking in Sweden about this.
Yeah.
And Jayon Software had this comment. He says, I have not done any front-end work in C# in the past 10 years or so.
Wow.
I looked at what's new when it comes to front-end development in the C# space, and I am lost. Microsoft alone has so many front-end frameworks from WinForms, WebForms, MAUI, Blazor, WPF, WinUI, UWP. I think it's time you do a show comparing all of these. If not, I'm going to go back to coding everything in JavaScript and packaging in Electron.
No, don't do that.
Okay, Jay, running around with the gun pointed at your own head saying one move and the idiot gets it, not a good plan. Like, that's not the way to go.
You can't blame Microsoft. I mean, they have their employees have to do something when they come to work in the morning,
Yeah.
Hey, we need to fix this. Oh, let's make a new framework.
Yeah, we've done this show. Like, go back and have a listen to the show we did with Brian Lagunas a couple of years ago where we ran down those stacks. We've also talked about Avalonia. We've talked about Uno. Like, I'm aware of the complexities, and we've definitely been working on the problem because it's a complicated problem. But, nothing's going to make me build it in Electron, man. That's a tough call. So, go ahead. Dive in, try on some of the choices. And we're going to talk about some of the crazy stuff you could do with C# and MAUI today.
Yeah.
So Jay, thank you so much for your comment, and a copy of Music to Code By is on its way to you. And if you'd like a copy of Music to Code By, write a comment on the website at .netrocks.com or on the Facebooks. We publish every show there. And if you comment there and I read it on the show, we'll send you a copy of Music to Code By.
And hey, you know what? You can follow us on Twitter if you want to, but you should follow us on Mastodon. I'm at Carl Franklin at techhub.social.
And I'm Rich Campbell at mastodon.social.
And I think we've had more engagement on Mastodon lately than we have had on Twitter, even though I have like 1,000 followers or so, and I have almost 15,000 followers on Twitter. Seems like the Twitter followers just don't comment as much or retweet as much. There's just more noise out there, I think.
Yeah, the folks that are on Mastodon are pretty engaged, which is fun.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, Richard.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring on our guests, Wesley Cabus and Nico Vermeir. So Wesley is a coding architect at X-Spirit in Belgium by day and a gaming/piano playing geek at night. He loves sharing his knowledge with others and tries to coach people in doing the same by co-organizing meetups in Belgium and speaking at conferences. And sometimes he gets crazy ideas like porting Doom into C#.
Who would do that?
That's kind of crazy.
That's not a thing.
And Nico Vermeir is an application architect and Microsoft MVP from Belgium. He's part of the Belgian Visual Studio user group and a crew member of Techorama, where you and I are going to be speaking in May, right, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. And probably recording a few shows.
Yeah, and I'm doing a MAUI workshop.
Cool.
When not playing around with technology, you can find Nico playing guitar or riding his motorcycle. I sense that there's this music kind of thing happening. And maybe what clued me into this is all the instruments that are hanging on the wall and set up behind you. It's just like you're like at a rock band set here.
Yes. So this is actually the rehearsal space of my hard rock / heavy metal cover band.
Wow.
Nice.
What's the name of your band?
It doesn't actually have an official name yet. We've only been around for a couple of months and we're just getting to know each other.
Oh, okay. And who is speaking? Is this Wesley or Nico?
Nico.
Okay, Nico. I have a suggestion for the name of your band. It should be. Yeah.
Can you spell that out?
No. Oh man, it's my friend, great drummer who plays with us once in a while. He also plays in this just absolute screamo band, And yeah, I always have. That's what I say. The name of this band is, and this song is called. All right. Well, anyway, where do we start? Doom and C#. Who had the crazy idea in the first place?
Well, yeah, that would be me.
Wesley.
Yeah. So to get started was I saw this video on the internet by David Whitney. So he did a session a while ago on emulating a Game Boy in .NET Core. And that actually got me inspired to try to do the same. So I started with that, reading all about the Game Boy, trying to create the emulator, and so on and so forth. Few weeks, months, nights later, I had something working. Also could do some sessions at local meetups and conferences on the same topic. And then I thought, that's done. What's next? Because I know David was talking about looking at the Mario 64 source code from Nintendo that was released.
So essentially, by emulator, you mean like you can take the ROMs out of these games and run them on a PC or a Mac?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And that's now running in .NET 6 as well on Windows Forms.
Wow.
But then after a while, because I was actually looking into also creating a Blazor WASM version of that, but I got stuck.
Yeah.
Because threading was not a thing yet.
Right.
So I was looking at another project, and I was talking with David, and he was looking at the Mario 64, and I thought, maybe this time I need to do something different than just copying David. And then I thought, why not port Doom? Because the source code is also available. And, well, I had
Does Doom use an engine that other games use, or is it just that one game?
It's just that one game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's from the early 90s, right? Like, this is vintage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, but I don't know if it had evolved. Yeah.
Well, the only thing that evolved in the original source code is that they run both the Doom 1 files and also Doom 2. So they use the same exe file for both of the games. But that's all that they really do. So it was not... I don't think it was reused for something else. I mean, it was written from the ground up because they've done... id Software did Wolfenstein before that. But they redid everything for Doom. They probably used some ideas, but it was written from scratch, as far as I know.
Ultimately, they did make this thing called the Doom engine, and that eventually evolved into the Quake engine. Right, this is all John Carmack stuff, right? Like, the same guy that's like Oculus, and now is quit from those guys. Like, that's all Carmack.
Wow. Yeah, I never got into the scrolling shoot 'em up games, but I certainly watched my friends play them. So what happened next?
Well, I opened up the repository, and I just got started at the first thing, which is trying to load the WAT file, which is where's all the data. It's typical. It's just one big file which has a directory structure, and then saying if you want to load the first map, then you have to jump to that byte location in this file, and then you have a list of the map contents, like the vertices, the lines, the sectors, and the textures being used and whatnot.
So it's all binary. There's no JSON here or anything.
Yep, that's all good old binary, ASCII data, and then I just started writing code using the typical stream reader stuff in .NET. To try and read the WAT file. And the first thing that I wanted to show is the logo when you start the game. So you get that big Doom logo in your face.
That's the guy with the two guns, or, with
and
demons all around him.
Yeah. So I started working on that part, and the game loop, which was at that point just running get WAT file, show something on screen. And I got that far actually pretty quickly. So that was a real good motivation to keep going. And then I started working on the menu. And then gradually working on just porting file by file until I got the first renders of the first level.
Wow.
Okay.
Now, I mean, all of the underlying code was written in C, right? Like,
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I could see you cramming it into WASM, but how does it end up in .NET?
Yeah, you can translate C code. I mean, it does help if you have knowledge of the C language, sure. But it's pretty portable to C#.
Interesting. Okay, and also, this is old school C. This is like 1990 C.
Yeah, it is. But that's also a benefit probably because it doesn't use it doesn't use any classes or the fancy C++ things like multiple inheritance.
How do the graphics translate?
The graphics were actually, they use like indexed color. So they have a different palette of colors that they use. And then they reference each color pixel by pixel, and they just have a view, one giant buffer filled with the pixels, like line per line.
Wow. So so you have to be in a sort of a graphics mode though. And in C# that doesn't, I didn't know C# was fast enough to do that without some sort of DirectX or some sort of,
it can handle it perfectly fine without anything of that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I started using WPF for the window, and I just use double buffering. So I have one array of screen bytes coming in, and then when that's done, I flip the buffers, and that's more than fast enough.
Then you get, is that 60 frames a second that way?
It's not 60 because the Doom engine is only 30 FPS, but you don't see any stutters or anything, so I'm pretty sure that I'm hitting the 30 FPS.
It occurs to me, though, that your screen resolution is also a lot lower than your typical PC screen, right?
Yeah. I don't know it out of my head, but I think it's 320 by 240.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah, 1990s game.
That helps. Yeah, that really helps.
Yeah.
Then we just use the WPF upscaling to make it nicer.
Yeah, so you're drawing like 75,000 pixels at 320 by 200.
Yep.
Per frame. That's not that much data.
It's not that bad.
Yeah. It's just going to look a little small on my 4K screen.
Well, you can always give it a go. It will actually look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're doing the upscaling, which is, efficient software.
Yep.
Are you using like texture maps or anything like that for the 3D stuff, extruding and?
It's I didn't introduce any new technology while porting. This is like a one-on-one port from the original code. I even left the bugs in.
And there wasn't any of that.
So no, yeah, they didn't use it. And it's also not real 3D. It's like a pseudo 3D that they are doing.
They call it like 2.5D, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Because you can't move in the Z dimension. Because if you shoot straight and there's someone above you, you'll actually shoot everyone in that vertical line.
Right.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So is it that you can't move in the Y-axis? Because I know you can move forward and backwards.
Y. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It's always strange thinking in 3D.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can shoot straight ahead. That's it. You can't go up or down.
Yeah, you shoot straight ahead, and then if there's someone below you or above you, as long as you can see them, you're hitting them.
All right.
Yep.
Wow.
You weren't supposed to have above and below, right? Like this is also supposed to be that sort of dungeon, square grid moving around thing. So
well, there is a bit of height. There are stairs in the game, so you can move up the stairs, but I don't think there's jumping as far as I can recall.
It's before that. Like that's how old the game we're talking about.
Nico's shaking his head.
Before jumping.
Nico, what was your part in all this?
Well, my part started in a WhatsApp group that we're both in, and Wesley was posting images of his progress. I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. And then came a message, hey, I'm porting Doom to C#. Would you like to try to get it on mobile phones using MAUI?
What?
And so, yeah, that's what they call a nerd snipe.
Wow.
So I cloned Wesley's codes. I don't think I ever really looked at all the game codes because I just started I added a new MAUI project to his solution. I referenced the libraries and everything just started building. So, then I had to figure out how to do the rendering because the writable bitmap was not there on MAUI.
Right.
So I had to convert everything to SkiaSharp.
Yeah,
and then
of course.
Turns out that what was it? The indexed colors was not supported.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of work to be done there, and then everything started rendering. Sorry.
The color mapping would be the problem.
Yeah. At some point, we got a very blue version of Doom.
Yes. Turns out that the two color channels were inverted on MAUI, red and blue.
Yeah, and there's a lot of red in Doom normally, so you got a lot of blue.
So there was a lot of blue, so all of a sudden.
All the demons are bleeding blue.
It was almost Doom by Eiffel 65.
And then, of course, it was converting the physical controls to touch-based on-screen
what's
controls.
the right way to make it work on a phone?
Yeah, but that's also where you saw the cross-platform thing come into play. I could just capture the touch events on the images that I used as controls, and I could just pass it into Wesley's code, and it would just work. And that was a really interesting exercise.
Yeah, no kidding. Because WASD doesn't make a lot of sense on a phone.
No, and apparently neither does it in MAUI, even though you can target desktop platforms.
Right.
Does it actually work on the Windows and Mac platforms?
I haven't tried it on a Mac yet, but it does run on Windows.
Yeah.
So if you run the MAUI version on Windows, it uses WinUI.
Yeah.
Right.
Mac is definitely the redheaded stepchild of MAUI, isn't it? Mac OS.
Yes.
It's kind of like the last priority.
Well, when I was running it on my laptop using MAUI through WinUI, I figured how hard can it be to make use of the keyboard. Turns out it's kind of hard because keyboard support is not there for MAUI.
Right.
Oh, really?
Like except when you're in input controls like a text box, then it just works. But if you just want to capture your key down and key up events, it doesn't work. The MAUI swallows them all. So what I needed to do was write a behavior that crawls up the visual tree all the way until I exit MAUI land, and then I can hook up event handlers in the actual WinUI controls. And that made it work, but it took me about 3 weeks to figure that out.
But that's all specific to the Windows implementation, right?
Yes.
So much for portability.
On that part, yeah, but it does show the strength of MAUI to go cross-platform and platform-specific at the same time.
Right. Yeah, the fact that you can poke down into the platform stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
But when you if you were going to now do this for the Mac, you're going to have to write it some different platform code. Like, does that end up being a separate set of files, or is that just a if Windows then, if Mac then?
Well, the behaviors are actually different files, but then the codes to attach them is actually the preprocessor things.
I mean, that's the basics of the game, right? Like, where does the game get weirder from there? I'm just trying to remember. It's an old game now, but yeah, does it get any extra challenges when you get to like the boss levels?
It will probably crash right now if you try to get that far.
Right.
I remember being able to go to the next level.
Yeah.
Took a while to.
Yeah, that's a good milestone. It's like, get a level to work.
Yeah.
Be able to finish a level. Like, actually, okay, you're at the end. Now can we load a new level?
Well, loading the new level was probably already working because that's also happening when you load the first level. But in between, you get this intermission screen in Doom where they show you the map of Phobos.
Oh, right.
The planet where you're on. And then
that's right. You're doing the moons of Mars.
Yeah. And then they show you just had that level done. This is your result. You had like that many enemies. You killed all of them, or you killed only a percentage.
Right.
You found so many items, you found so many secrets, and you took way too much time to get there. Because the first level is like doable in 30 seconds, according to them. And if you want to go through everything, you take typically 4 or 5 minutes.
Right.
If you know the level. If you don't know the level, it's going to be more.
Well, we're completionists, right? You have to find every secret. You have to kill every bad guy.
Yeah. But then it uses the states inside to transfer from you're playing a level to you're going to the intermission screen, and then you're loading the next level. And then the boss fight might still work. But then after the boss dies, there's also a specific trigger that you need to implement because you're not then going to an intermission screen, but you're going to go to end of the episode screen.
Yeah, it's like a closing cut screen.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's probably not working yet.
You remember when playing 8-bit arcade games in the early 80s, when if you got to level 255 or level 256, it would just stop?
Yeah.
It's like the kill screen. Yeah. It didn't,
or like in Pac-Man, if you get too many points, that your points go negative or something.
Yeah, roll over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8-bit problems.
Nothing like signed integers. How are the cut screens even stored? Like, that's a whole other problem.
Some of them are just images,
Right.
just like the logo. Others use scrolling text.
Right.
So they have a font defined also in textures, so to speak. And then they just roll text one digit or one character at a time. And then they play a typical song during those screens as well.
8-bit music. I love it.
Oh, it's actually MIDI files in this case. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, even
Which
worse.
was a challenge by itself to get it to work.
Yeah, parsing MIDI files.
Yeah, but those sound pretty well on the modern Windows machine because you have a pretty decent sound library installed by default. And if you want, if you have like a good sound library yourself, you might be able to plug that one in and have even better hi-fi sound if you want.
Yeah, maybe even better than the original.
Yep. Yeah. I think it already sounds better than the original.
Yeah.
Because I think they had to use their own sound banks in the past, and then if you had like a Gus sound card, you could probably make it sound better.
Uh-huh.
I never had one of those.
Cards. There's a
Sound
thought.
cards.
Yeah.
Me and my Sound Blaster are ready.
I have a history with the Sound Blaster.
You do?
Richard knows, but I was working for the company that did the MIDI sequencer and the MIDI connector box for the Sound Blaster, and I wrote the MIDI files that come with it. So all the sampled MIDI files, that's me.
Yeah.
So a 12-year-old me had your code running then.
Yeah.
Back
in the day.
Well, I didn't write the code. I just wrote the MIDI files. All right. Well, stick around because we're going to have more with Nico and Wesley coming right up after this. And we're back. You're listening to .NET Rocks. I'm Carl Franklin. That's my buddy Richard Campbell.
Hey.
And that's my new friends, Nico and Wesley,
Hi.
who we're going to see at Techorama. And they're talking about doing a C# port of Doom. And I got to ask this question. If somebody wanted to look at that code and maybe knew C# but didn't know much about graphics programming, are they going to learn something? What are they going to learn?
They're going to learn probably a lot about how to get graphics on screen in the most elaborate way possible. But that's just because id Software had to write everything from scratch as well, keeping in mind that it was supposed to run. I think they targeted a 386 CPU in the day without a floating point coprocessor.
Right. Not a DX.
Not a DX, an SX indeed.
Uh-huh.
Which means they actually implemented a fixed floating point class themselves to do all of the trigonometry operations faster than they could do on a PC without the floating point math coprocessor. So if you want to look at the graphics code, there's a part that's really easy, which is just the basic logo images. That's bitmap pixel data, but then index colors. The renderer, that's something else, because they use the BSP trees where they go through all the sectors to find out which sectors you're seeing, and then they find out which walls they need to render, and then which textures, and then there's the light mapping, and that's all done from scratch.
How pretty was the original C code, where the variables like A, B, C, X, Y, was it commented?
It's actually pretty well structured. A also a lot of decently named variables.
That's good.
They do have the only I's and J's were counters, so that's fine.
Yeah.
There are quite a lot of comments in there. Some comments are not for publication, but yeah,
some more appropriate than others.
Yeah.
Did you come across any comments like, "What the hell was I thinking here"?
There's a lot of those. And also, I think there's still some, we need to fix this and something else.
Yeah, from 1993. I love it.
Yeah. Because there's one bug in the code that I noticed while I was coding. I want to say copying over, but translating it from C to C#.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this doesn't look right. And I left it in there. I marked it for fixing it later.
Yeah, it's a good. That's a good comment. This doesn't look right, and then a bunch of code.
Yeah,
it smells bad.
Nothing as permanent as temporary code, of course.
Yeah.
But I actually left it in because it is a very well-known bug in all of the Doom source ports.
Uh-huh.
And then you can either choose to fix it, or you can choose to stay like a vanilla port and keep it in.
Right. Stick with the vintage.
Yeah.
That's the game that created the first BFG.
BFG?
Yes.
It was, yeah.
The big frickin' gun.
Oh, okay.
Like that's, which is a meme, right? I mean, so many games, even movies have a BFG of some kind, but
you're talking about the gun at the bottom of the screen that in the first person.
Yeah, that's right. That you're playing with, but also like the weapons in Doom were part of the fun, like the chainsaw. That's some good fun, right? The shotgun was effective. Of course, the minigun, your rotary cannon, but the BFG was kind of the end of game super powered gun, but you only had so much ammo for it. Like you had to pick your moment when you were going to use the BFG.
Just like in real life.
And so many games copied the weapons fun. I don't know if you ever played Redneck Rampage.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could shoot chickens or put a chicken on your shotgun or something.
Well, wasn't Redneck Rampage the game, one of the first games where you basically make your weapons? Like you pull them together, or that might have been one of the zombie games, but there's this sort of recognition that people love ridiculous weapons.
You make them from chickens or?
Yeah. For fire, using chickens as the projectile.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the polite term for something completely absurd.
The BFCG.
Here you go. The big frickin' chicken gun. Anyway, the language was not as careful as we are being at the moment.
Yeah.
That's where all that came from. That's what made me think of it. It's like obscenity in Doom. Oh, wait. That's where that came from.
So, did this inspire you to go on and do something else, like port a I don't know, a graphics framework or a game framework that a bunch of other things? I mean, what comes to mind for me is MAME, Multi-Arcade Machine Emulator, which I just got sucked into big time, and I still do. But did it inspire you? Are you going to stop at Doom? I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, Doom is not yet completely finished. I mean, if I have to put a number on it, it's probably in a 80% state finished right now.
Right.
And I want to get near 100. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to 100 because I'm doubting if I want to do the networking stuff.
Dude, multiplayer.
Yeah, I know.
When that first came out in Doom, like it was a huge crisis. Like universities were banning it. I was a networking guy back then, and I got all kinds of calls of like, how do I block Doom multiplayer?
Doom had actual multiplayer? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You could play it even with a serial cable between two PCs.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's 93. Like lots of people don't have networking yet, right? Like those are expensive features. But this leads to Duke Nukem 3D, right?
Yeah.
Which really, you talk about the definitive first-person multiplayer game for LAN parties. Duke Nukem.
That was the one. Yeah.
Talking about strong language.
Oh yeah. It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
To answer the question, I I'm not sure yet if there's what the next thing is gonna be, because this idea really started when I had a lot of free time in the summer. So I could, I spent most of my time at that point working from home.
Right.
Which meant I went from 1 week sitting at my desk in my place to having vacation, waking up, booting my PC, and starting to work on Doom. So
summer is coming up again.
I know.
Yeah.
I need a new project, but I'm not sure yet if I'm going to start on a game engine, because I know someone else started working on a MAUI game engine.
And then on the MAUI side of things, I got nerd sniped again.
Oh no.
So when we met in Sweden in February, 2 weeks later, Wesley and I were actually in Canada at Kung Fu. And we were in the speaker room working on Doom, and someone said, you know what would be fun? If you could control your Android version by just walking around holding your phone.
Right.
Well, hey.
Easy accelerometer.
Yeah. So now we're trying to do that.
You'd have to have a big room.
Yeah, well, I mean, to walk forward, side to side, and then press somewhere for firing.
Yeah, and then make like a shooting motion to fire the gun.
There you go.
You just have to be clear. Room not included.
Oh, man. Rednet Rampage was based on the build engine that they made Duke Nukem with. And the build engine was a copy of the Doom engine. Like, these are all related. All these games we're talking about.
Redneck Rampage, I always considered the redneck version of Duke Nukem.
Right.
Because they looked so similar in graphics.
Well, it comes out a year later, right? Like they're all from the same origin and that same style of game.
And have you guys ever used Unity 3D?
I've played around with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not really into the... I can't say that I built something that I'm proud of with Unity. We did try to create a game once. What engine did we use again?
Monogame.
Monogame, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to make a breakout game with that.
We actually got pretty far. It was basically done. We just needed to build X amount of levels and just publish it.
Yeah.
But all the fun stuff was done, so we moved on to different projects.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, and the bar's so high for Unity. You look at some of the Unity games that are out there, like they're amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Hearthstone is a Unity.
It's tough company to hang out in. It's a long way from 2.5D.
Yeah.
And it's not a free tool.
I mean, Blizzard's Hearthstone is built with Unity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a free tool either.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No, but lots of great graphical assets and things. Like you've got a lot to work with if you go down that path.
And it's not free, but they have a lot of free assets that can get you going already to build something pretty nice. But then again, you can say the same about Unreal Engine.
Yeah, but in Unity, you can use C#.
That's true.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
or that other language.
The one we don't talk about?
The one that the J language that shall not be named.
Oh no.
Voldemort.
But it's so much game development is just done in C. It's nice to be, working in C#. Like that's the language and is safer. Like you think debugging business apps is hard? Try debugging games.
Try debugging memory leaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. At some point while porting the game, I had the level loaded and the graphics looked almost perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then you tried to start moving. So you press forward and you shot into the wall, like light speed ahead. And I was like, I'm not sure what's happening right now. And I'm not sure how I'm going to find out what's going wrong. So, yeah, that was...
Sounds like an experience I had in the 70s.
Nice. You mean when you were 5, right? But you're exactly right. It's like, this is not forms over data, right? There's no consistent UI here. You're trying to create an illusion of 3-dimensional motion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the idea that you have impacts or there are surfaces, that they're projectiles, that you have things that move that make sense, that you can discern an enemy from the wall.
Yep.
And that it follows some kinds of rules of physics. Like, there's a lot of pieces that have to work right to not toss you out of the illusion that is a game.
At least collision detection worked because the wall did stop me.
Did you get damage for slamming into the wall?
No.
Did it make a sound like?
It does make a sound like oomph. Whenever Doom guy hits a wall, he does like oomph.
He makes a little grunt. So that worked. The collision detector worked. It played the sound.
Yeah.
Like these are all the things we forget about. The fact that you've got to write the code that says on a collision, account for damage, create that visualization, play that sound, like, and that it all has to be timely, or it does. The metaphor doesn't work either. Hit the wall, pause.
It's
not right.
It's a lot of moving pieces that have to work together, and then. That in the Doom game you see that as the Doom loop. So what typically happens in every game is you look at the input from the player, you process that input, you process everything else like monsters or level logic.
All the monsters get their turn to move, get their turn to shoot. You move the projectiles, like
yep, and then you update the sounds, you draw the world, and then you start over again.
Yeah,
that's one of the hardest things I found to grasp as an application developer, where you're working in an event-based world.
Right.
Your application is waiting for your user to interact.
right.
If you're building a game, then your world is alive. There's stuff happening even if you're not interacting with it.
Yep.
Just because the player is AFK doesn't mean the world's AFK.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you mentioned this, but did it draw the frames on a timer, or did it rely on the timing of the CPU?
It uses some form of timing to pace itself, because otherwise a game from 1993 would
Slam you into a wall.
Oh, yeah.
That was not the cause of the bug, by the way.
I'm old enough to remember when all our computers were 1 megahertz. And, we only had the 1 megahertz 6502, and then a 3 megahertz 6502 came out, and all games were unplayable because they were 3 times faster now.
And the original XT clones had a turbo mode switch, which would turn it into 8 megahertz.
From 4.77.
4.77 to 8. So 4.77 for games, and then 8 for everything else.
Lotus 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Turbo switch.
It took me years to figure out why one would switch the turbo off.
Right.
Because I've never had a PC with the turbo button, but I've heard of it. And I was always wondering, why would you on purpose slow down your computer?
No, we thought it was a feature because we get to speed it up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You think you're good? Play this fast.
Yeah.
I just remember, I know this is welcome to 4 old guys try to talk. I remember when I got my first 1200 baud modem, and I was really mad because I couldn't read the text as it came across the modem like I could with my 300 baud modem. I could actually read it as it was drawing on the screen. And then with the 2400 baud modem, holy crap, the whole screen just appears at once. Yeah. Blessing and a curse. Oh, well, I guess the moral of the story is don't get used to your tech. It's going to change.
Yeah.
Well, and that certainty about how we time things, like how fast should that loop run? What is the heartbeat of it?
Yeah. Yeah. And, unlike JavaScript, floating point works in C#.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it just be number?
No.
Isn't that what Doug Crockford told us? It should just be number.
Oh, in JavaScript? Yeah.
Should it be
In everything.
Yeah.
Why do we have to discern different types of numbers?
All right, guys. Anything else that you want to share, divulge, or admit before we hang up? No?
No, not really.
Okay.
Are you looking for contributors, Wesley? Is there more to try and get this thing finished?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially on the Android level as well, because we got sound working on Android, but music is not working yet there.
Okay.
Which is again interesting because Wesley got the MIDI files working in the WPF version. through an external DLL. And when we loaded that DLL into MAUI and run it on WinUI, we had sound, we had music. But on Android, we don't. So we still need to fix that.
Right.
Okay.
So kind of find those kinds of mappings for each of these platforms.
Yeah.
Have you tried it on iOS?
I've had it run on iOS once, but I don't have that much access to iOS devices.
Right.
That's the eternal problem that you need a Mac to build for a Mac.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You can run from Visual Studio on Windows on your iOS device.
And you can use Mac and Cloud for a Mac.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, hey, we'll see you in May and at Techorama. We put all the links to all the things that we're talking about on .NETRocks.com. So go there and check it out, everybody. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. It was nice talking to you.
Yes, you too. And we'll talk to you, dear listener, next time on .NET Rocks.
.NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Plop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.